From the bottom, hey, got to be up in your face, putting groupers in the chase, putting work to paper base. On the up and I'm on the road, you can eat and you cutting cold. I've been driving no cruise control.
AEW, oh my good God, have mercy. We gotta talk about this show. Now, as a go-home show, this thing was dreadful. Pretty bad, I can tell you that. I was bored halfway through, as usual when it comes to AEW. So we're going to do what AEW, what I usually do with Triple H. When he does a very bad go-home show, I just put it out of my mind, focus on the pay-per-view, and we'll get to the show when we get to the show, let's say. Okay? So, for starters, AEW does a deal with Amazon Prime. So now you will be able to pay $50 to Amazon to watch AEW. The prices for these shows are not going down. They're staying the same. And a lot of AEW fans are getting very frustrated at that. But there ain't nothing you can do about it. It's a good look, I guess, if Amazon is going to cut them in somehow. It ought to work out just fine. I don't have much to say on this subject. Apparently, Phoenix is also free. Good. I'm glad to see that Phoenix is free. They apparently let go of Paige's brother. What was his name? Zach. Z-A-K. You know, because he's a tough guy. Apparently, he's gone from AEW. Fine. Whatever. It is what it is. I don't know why he had a job in the first place. But that begs the question, is she gone? Is Paige gone? I haven't seen her anywhere on planet Earth. So there's no telling. I know Triple H really liked her. You know, protected her from, the cum shot video where that really should have ruined her career. I don't see how she was able to even have a career after that. I know I didn't respect her afterwards, but I guess Triple H basically stood in between everybody's good sense and making sure this young lady was able to keep a job. Then she continued to go out there and screw things up. So, but AEW never really says that they let people go. So we don't know if, Paige is gone yet. I guess we'll figure out if she pops up in WWE unannounced and unwanted. Let's go to AEW, however. AEW Revolution from the Crypto.com arena in Los Angeles, California. It will be airing March the 9th, which is a Sunday. I thought it was going to be Saturday night. AEW was supposed to be the pioneers of Saturday night pay-per-views. Why they moved to Sunday? Don't know. Got to be something up with that. They have distributed thus far, as of Monday, this is the last update for WrestleTix, 8,586 tickets. Let's just round it up. 8,600 tickets out of 9,200 tickets. So they sold the bulk of the tickets that were available for the show. Under 10,000, which of course is not good for a company the size of AEW, especially with the star power and the stories that they're putting in here. I mean, you got Will Osprey on this show, you got Swerve, and all these people are Kenny Omega, and all these guys are in singles matches. And under 10,000 people will be in the facility. That's a kick in the balls. I gotta say, gotta admit, it's not well. That'd have been fine for NXT, but for AEW, knowing how much money they spend on talent. What did MJF say? He's gonna make $15 million by the end of his contract, and you got less than 10,000 people in the building, and MJF is one of the major focus stars on the show. Get real about this. This is not a business venture at this point. Also, I think he was exaggerating. The thing is, how long is this? Well, he can make $15 million if he, makes $3 million a year for 5 years. That actually seems fair. $3 million a year for 5 years, that's not bad. For a guy like MJF, that's not bad. I know most people are like, he's making $5 million a year for 3 years. Probably need to do your math the other way around. I'm pretty sure he signed a long-term contract for some decent money. So it ought to be fine for MJF. It ought to be fine for AEW, but you should want more people in the building if you're going to pay MJF $3 million a year. Just saying. I'm talking about MJF. But he is one of your top guys. He's one of your major performers. They call them main characters. Ugh. Let's go into the card. There is, as of right now, 10 matches announced. What? So there's a dark match or a pre-show match. Big Boom AJ and the Conglomeration, which features Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe, versus Johnny TV in the MXM collection. The MXM collection, of course, is Mace and Mansoor. I'm sorry, Mason Madden and Mansoor. Just burn this with fire. Who cares? They still doing the double chunk chocolate cookie. They still got that guy on here. Why is that guy on this show? Did it work last time? That's why they doing it again? Because double chunk chocolate cookie. They should bring in the other Costco guy. The Justified Asian guy. Costco peanut butter versus Jif peanut butter. Which one is more justified? They should bring that guy in. I like that guy. I don't know nothing about this double chunk chocolate dude. I don't know nothing about him. But that other guy who sits in his car and eats gas station tacos and tells you whether it's worth $3 or not, I like that guy. The guy who got in his car, drove to Mexico to taste a Mexican Big Mac, I like that guy. That guy's cool. That guy's funny. I will watch him on TV. Big Boom AJ, I don't know. Nah, pass. I'm on pass. I don't care who wins. All right, don't care who wins. Don't care. And Johnny Nitro, man, how the mighty have fallen. He still has a job at least. Johnny, I beg of you, go back to TNA. Go to MLW. Get out of this situation, please. Please escape this. You have never been so devalued as you are a wrestling TikTok guy. And look, it may get some TikTok memes or something, but you've been in the business too long to be doing this stuff. This is what Fuego del Sol and the Wheeler Yutas are supposed to be doing. Not a guy like you, man. Just have some spine. Let's move on to the next contest, of course. Kazuchika Okada versus Brody King. A singles match for the AEW Continental Championship. Now, there was some dirt sheet rumors that they're going to be getting rid of one of these belts, that the International and the Continental title are probably going to be getting fused later this year, or they're going to scrap one of these titles. I would fully suggest you scrap this title. This Continental belt. Nobody cares about it. It's attached to that tournament at the end of the year, which would be the only reason you would keep it. But you need to get rid of that tournament too, if we're being honest. Nobody in their right mind thinks that Brody King is going to beat Okada. We already know how AEW books. They're not going to have Brody King beat Okada. It's not going to happen. So there's no point even really putting too much thought into it. But if they're really serious about getting rid of one of these belts, this is the belt you should get rid of. If you're going to fuse the belts together, if you're just going to phase one of the belts out, this is the belt you want to phase out. There's just no point to it. Unless you're going to do something where you only win it in the tournament and you don't have to defend it throughout the year. But it's like a cup where you win it, much like the Owen. You know how the Owen Hart tournament, you win that, you get that Owen Hart championship or whatever, and you don't have to defend that thing. You don't have to defend this, but it exists. These two guys worked in the main event of the show as Okada and Brody King wrestled Ricochet and Swerve. Ricochet and Okada defeated Swerve and Brody King in a tag team match on this show. Nobody cared about it. Nobody cared at all. I was bored to tears halfway through the show. I really don't know what the fuck happened at the end, and I don't care. Moving on. Osprey versus Kyle Fletcher. Steel cage match. All right. Now, this is obviously Osprey is going to win the match because he's already coughed up 2 matches to Kyle Fletcher, if I remember correctly. The opening match on this show was all about showing off Osprey It was Osprey, Hobbs, Mark Briscoe, and Orange Cassidy versus Brian Cage, Lance Archer, Brian Keith, who I guess is back to being the Bad Apple. Is he the Bad Apple or is he the Bounty Hunter? Why don't they make up their fucking minds? And Mark Davis. Osprey clearly won the match for his team because why would he lose? And then after the match, he got jumped by Mark Davis and Don Callis' boys. But then for some odd reason, Mark Davis, who jumped Will Ospreay from behind, was hesitant to continue jumping Will Ospreay from behind. I don't get this, man. I don't get it. I don't understand. He's conflicted 1 minute, he's all in the next. So Kyle Fletcher berates him, gets him to hit Will Ospreay with a chair. So all of this stuff is happening. Will Ospreay is going to win this match. He's going to beat Kyle Fletcher. Fletcher's won enough. You know, the issue is going to be what you do with Fletcher after this. Now he's had his feud with Will Ospreay. Now you're going to have to get creative to keep him in the conversation if he's a guy you're interested in pushing, which for all intents and purposes, they are interested in pushing him. So we'll see how they choose to keep him interesting after Ospreay wipes the floor with him. Next, MJF versus Hangman Adam Page. So these guys got a couple of segments on the show. We started the show with MJF pacing in the parking lot, saying fans believe that Hangman never did anything wrong. So then he starts rambling about Chris Daniels, him beating him up with light work compared to what he's going to do to Hangman. And then later, he calls Hangman a fraud and a coward, and that Hangman's trying to run away from him. Hangman's not the real main character of AEW. And then Hangman's car rolled up very silently because, you know, it's an electronic car. It's like a toy car. I don't think he could have ran over a grasshopper in this goddamn car. So MJF flees, and Hangman hops out of his vehicle and follows him, only to grab a MJF lookalike, and then he's attacked by MJF from behind. MJF and Hangman go back and forth until he kicks Hangman in the balls. Then we get a generic MJF beat him up where he used the ring to beat him up. Then he says that he wants to prove his point that the fans are hypocrites, that they like when Hangman sets things on fire. So let's see if they like when he sets things on fire. So he gets back outside the ring, goes under the ring, and there's, lighter fluid. He just happened to have lighter fluid under the ring. Huh. Whoop-de-doo. Who just keeps flammable objects under the ring? I don't know. He starts spraying Hangman Page with lighter fluid. And then we're hearing about Excalibur and Ian Riccaboni. Somebody's trying to explain why nobody's stopping this. They're like, the officials, they're with Moxley. Yeah, Moxley's backstage. He's making noise and carrying on. So, yeah, they're back there. And then eventually they came out to stop this. And MJF starts to screaming about, let me prove my point. Let me prove my point. And they carried him out. That was actually pretty good. I actually liked MJF here. This feud has not done a lot for me, as I'm not a huge fan of Hangman Page and his electric vehicles. You need to charge that beat, by the way. But MJF being unhinged is almost always fun. So, now, who needs to win the match is an interesting question, because it depends on where you're going next. If Hangman is going to challenge Moxley next, oops, I'm sorry, I spoiled my prediction already. But it seemed like that he might be the most logical person to fight Moxley next. So I would go with Hangman Page winning here. But AEW doesn't book things in ways that make sense. Remember, Daniel Garcia lost to MJF when it made so much more sense for MJF to lose that match. So it makes sense that Hangman would win this match and continue his forward motion towards the world title, and MJF could just be stuffy and upset about something else. But it's also a possibility that they pull more than one match out of this feud. So, and plus, yeah, now that I think about it, because Swerve and Ricochet is another Contenders match, They probably are definitely going to have more than one match here. I guess at that point, I would still go with Hangman. I still think the babyface should go over in the first match. And then maybe continue this thing down the road. All right, speaking of Swerve versus Ricochet, that was the next match on the list. So Swerve and Ricochet got the opening spot on the show, a contract signing in the ring, where Ricochet once again wore a suit with a backwards cap. He just looks like such a dork. He didn't bring the robe, but says it's in good hands and getting some modifications. Then he says that Swerve is lucky that he's getting a rematch because he should be done with him. He says that it was Swerve's fault that he thought he could mock and bully Ricochet. Now he's going to beat Swerve again to become the AEW World Champion. Swerve said he did start this feud because he wants to show that Ricochet is a fraud. He's going to prove it at Revolution. Says that you stabbed me with some scissors now. You made the fatal mistake of leaving me breathing. He's going to run through Ricochet, put him in the ground. And the only thing he's going to be remembered for is what he did to him and his ring announcer wife. And the whole ring announcer wife thing got a huge pop. And I was just kind of shrugged like, we know his wife was a ring announcer. So what was the diss there? There was no diss. Like, what was the burn? There was no burn. You're only going to be known for having a ring announcer for a wife. Ooh, cooking. No. Not really. After all of this, they sign the contract. Ricochet tries to stab Swerve with some scissors. Instead, he gets blocked, and then he gets stabbed with some scissors. Like, oh, turnabout's fair play. Except Ricochet didn't get a lot of blood. And Ricochet actually won the tag team match for his team. He actually pinned Swerve Strickland again in the main event of this show. That's fine. It's fine. So I'm guessing that Swerve is going to win. It's a sensible decision to make. Again, given the babyface is likely going to end up being the challenger for Moxley in the future. Swerve being that guy is good. It's fine. I don't have a problem with this at all. But this match should be fun. I hope they don't turn it into Crouching Tiger, hidden bullshit. I hope they don't turn it into that. Hopefully these guys have both learned that they don't need to do that stuff anymore. And that you could have a solid adult heavyweight wrestling match. That, you could sprinkle in some athleticism in there because they're very athletic guys. But you don't have to go VR troopers in every fucking match, which is fine. Also, if this was Vince Russo, it'd be scissors on a pole match. The first guy to get the scissors can stab the other guy with them, preferably to death. But it's not. It's Tony Khan, so it's just for the number one contendership. All right, next, Mercedes Moné, a.k.a. Sasha Banks, versus Momo Watanabe. Momo Watanabe. This woman who has not appeared on this show to wrestle a single match is somehow a number one contender, I guess. Mercedes cut a promo, calls Momo legit, but said there's no stopping the Monet train. And apparently Momo is going to wrestle on Collision because she's going to wrestle Serena Deeb. What can I say about this that hasn't already been said about Afghanistan? We're just going to move on. We already know Mercedes is going to win. She ain't not losing to some random Japanese woman. Next, the Hurt Syndicate versus the Outrunners for the AEW tag team titles. They did a vignette for the Outrunners that reminded me so much of Southpaw Regional Wrestling. And it made me miss Southpaw Regional Wrestling so much. Because the vignette was supposedly from 1987 with these guys working out in the gym. Very throwback, very entertaining. They have no chance in hell of beating the Hurt Business. No chance in hell. Just go ahead and wrap this thing up. The Hurt Business are going to win. Match number 8. Falls Count Anywhere. The Hollywood ending. AEW Women's World Title. Timeless Toni Storm versus Mariah May. I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of this feud. And the promo segment they did on this show, I actually liked it. They did one of those sit downs where both parties have agreed to no physicality, and Mariah May starts it by spitting in Tony's face. She spit in her face, and Tony, to her credit, no sold it. Just completely no sold it. Now, usually I deduct points for spitting because spitting is one of the most grotesque things that you could do, especially when women are involved. It's grotesque. But it plays into Mariah May's gimmick where she is psychotic. You know, now that she's lost the belt, she's meandering between being vindictive and being swarmy, loving Tony but hating her. She blamed Tony for all of this stuff for even happening. Says she loved Tony, and Tony sits there like she's been a victim. But then she says Tony's nothing without her. That title is nothing without her. Then she says we could have our Hollywood ending. I'm your greatest co-star. She's got kind of going back and forth about being, just basically being bipolar, right? And Tony's sitting there with so much poise, you know, just listening to Mariah go on and on. And so then after Mariah whines and spits and everything, Tony says that she's not going to kill Mariah May. Mariah May doesn't deserve to die. She's going to sentence her to a life of mediocrity, to a life of being forgotten, where people are going to ask themselves, whatever happened to Mariah May? And they just got in each other's faces. And I got to tell you, Tony's such a good promo. That promo with Tony, she jumped on her, that shit cooked. It was good. These girls have been doing excellent work. It's just very unfortunate that almost everything around them has been trash. I know a lot of people, Timeless Tony Storm is not up to what they would enjoy in pro wrestling. Get a life. Timeless Tony Storm has been good. Mariah May has been good. The big issue I'm going to have here is, what do you do when you separate them? Oh, what do you do when these guys can't work together anymore? Because they've been doing a really good job. They've been bouncing off each other for like a year now. It's been almost a year. I think, didn't Mariah turn on Tony in like, was that April of last year? Maybe May of last year? So it's been almost a year of them feuding. They've had good matches. There was a weird bit there when it comes to Tony Storm pretending to be a rookie again. That was not my favorite part of the story, but they're doing a good job. Mariah is desperate. She's trying to get under Tony's skin, while Tony is stoic, focused. I love it. I think it's going to be great. Obviously, Tony Storm's going to win the match in order to clean the feud off. It's going to be it ought to be a fun match. It ought to be bloody. I'm pretty sure that they're going to not at all be concerned about squeamish people who don't want to watch women bleed. They're going to go in there and get it in if they're smart. And I'm looking forward to it. Actually, this is the one match I do want to see because it got storyline involved, and I like both girls. Just please no more spitting. But you may kiss as you please. Tony Storm was in another part of the show, though, hanging out with the Queen of the Ring director, whose name escapes me and I didn't write it down. But Tony cut a promo about being the star of Queen of the Ring and expressed her disappointment that her nude scene was cut. And the director says he wants to keep the movie PG-13. Now, this has led to quite a bit of controversy because AEW has been very supportive of the movie. They have had wrestlers go to the premiere. Tony Storm is in the movie. I think that there was another AEW female wrestler in the movie as well. There's quite a few female wrestlers featured in the movie. I know Tony is one of them. I'm not sure if it's Athena or somebody else that's in it as well. Or is it Naomi? It's one or the other. In any event, the movie is about Mildred Burke. And Mildred Burke's life story as told by her biographer, Jeff Lean. Read that book, by the way. The biggest female part of is all of her female competitors, who are the various girlfriends of Billy Wolf. So, one of whom was June Byers, who ended up becoming the women's world champion in 1948, never having beaten Mildred Burke. But that's going to be the big climax of the movie, was the shoot fight between Mildred Burke and June Byers, which means Camille, who plays June Byers in the movie, let's push that to the side. It was supposed to be Charlotte. Charlotte actually was initially booked to be June Byers in the movie, and then somehow, for some reason, WWE pulled her and ended up going to Camille. I think Camille is probably a better choice for June Byers anyway, as June Byers was one of the bigger women that Mildred Burke had to wrestle. She was like 5'8" or something like that. I think Camille might actually be as tall as June Byers was, and she's also from the South, and June Byers was originally from the South too. She was originally from Texas. So that whole thing makes sense, but put that to the side. The big issue here is Camille is still under contract to AEW, and yet is in none of their promotional material. And this spot, which features Toni Storm, would have been perfect to have Camille in that spot, and she wasn't there. Apparently, there is some unhappiness between Camille and AEW, leading to a lot of fans turning on Camille, calling her generic and boring, and says she doesn't bring anything to AEW. She was complaining before she even got put on TV. Well, maybe because she was under contract for months and months without being used. I mean, she was frozen out before she even got a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, she wasn't even being on TV and she already gotten frozen. So, apparently there's some frustration there. They should just let her go. You know, her short run doesn't matter that much anyway. But Camille is, again, fine pro wrestler. You know, not going to change the world anyways. I don't think so. Not from what I saw in NWA. She didn't give much of an opportunity in AEW. I think she only had like a handful of matches, and then, you know, she got sent home essentially for complaining about creative. But they had another match that was tied into this Queen of the Ring Presents match. Chris Statlander and Thunder Rosa are defeated by Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne. Megan Bayne, who only has one facial expression. She's like a Russian boxer or something like that. I don't understand this girl. Anyway, Penelope Ford, not good. She's very much like Gigi Dolan or Cora Jade. She just looks pretty. She's probably in the wrong business. Or she's in the right business, but she's in the wrong place. She should be a manager, and maybe occasionally taking bumps. I don't think she should be a wrestler at all. Thunder Rosa, of course, is very good. Chris Statlander is also very good. Megan Bayne is also very good. The winner of the match was Megan Bayne. She pinned Thunder Rosa, believe it or not, with an F5, which I forgot what they call her finisher, but it doesn't matter. So, Thunder Rosa lost to Megan Bayne. Man, that'll teach you from running to the ring with a chair and not using it. Maybe next time you'll use the chair when you run to the ring with it. Okay, next. Konosuke Takeshita versus Kenny Omega for the AEW International Championship. Clearly, Kenny Omega is going to win this match. Clearly. He's lost to Takeshita twice. This should be the match of the night in terms of athleticism. Purely just going in there doing moves. This ought to be the match of the night. Now, in terms of what should be the better story of the night, probably going to be Tony and Mariah, because it's the end of their feud. I'm more interested in that. But in terms of the moves match of the night, well, I guess Fletcher and Osprey kind of is in the running for that. You might get 4 or 5-star matches on this show. You might get 4 or 5, if you're being honest. You never know with that Momo Watanabe thing, because she's Japanese, so she might get a star rating that's pretty high just for that, you know. But I definitely think Kenny Omega is going to win this match. There's not that much thought to put into it. The main event: Jon Moxley versus Edge for the AEW World Championship. Edge took 15 minutes to beat Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta was outside the ring. He was at a billiard hall or something like that. He walked through the perfectly clean streets of Sacramento from outside the building into the building. He looks like something from Fraggle Rock. They wrestled for 15 minutes. Edge won. This was completely stupid. Made Edge look weak as fuck because Wheeler Yuta is a jabroni. Alright? It took forever for Edge to beat him. After the match, Edge forcefully shook Wheeler Yuta's hand and then told him this is what respect feels like. Yuta was confused, like he got a kiss for the first time. He was like, oh, really? Is this respect? Oh my goodness. Moxley gets in the ring, starts bullying Yuta, shoving him in the face, much like Roman Reigns shoved Sami Zayn in the face. I see what you're doing. He's barking at Yuta. Wheeler Yuta gets mad and leaves. The crowd got behind Wheeler Yuta there for a second. Backstage, Moxley is walking around, pacing back and forth, doing the shoulder thing, saying that Edge has successfully gotten rid of all of his help. He's going to be all alone. Edge got under his skin, got his cage rattled. He said the bars was to keep me from you. Then says that he contradicted himself by saying there's no respect in this business. And then saying that the only way you get respect in this business is if you got to be able to pull the trigger. And he's all about pulling the trigger. So they're teasing that Moxley is not going to have any backup. No Death Riders at all going into this match at Revolution. So you know there's going to be a hook. And I'm not talking about Taz's boy. We're talking about Jay White. Right? Jay White defeated best wrestler alive, Max Caster, in one move. I gotta tell you, Max Caster at least is entertaining. He comes out, he annoys everybody, he gets booed, he gets beat, and almost immediately, and everybody goes home happy. Jay White gets on the microphone, says that since he came back, Edge has been in his corner, and he's been in Edge's corner, and at Revolution, he's going to be there to see him win the world title, which guarantees that Jay White is going to turn on Edge and cost him the belt at Revolution. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Not that I care that much, but at least Jay White is a young talent for Edge to work with and spend some time with. And Jay White much like Johnny Nitro and a bunch of other guys, are at such a low end of their careers that working with Edge can only help him. You know, it's the only thing. It can only improve his lot in life. It's the only thing that can help him. At this point, you couldn't piss on Jay White and anybody will give a shit. You could turn him into a human pincushion. You could beat him until Tootsie Rolls fell out of his ass. Nobody would care about Jay White. So maybe if he turns heel, you'll get people to care, you know? But I don't think so. Because I think most people are now expecting it and are going to be a little bit more, I guess you could say, critical, especially with the John Cena turn that just occurred. And I know people shouldn't compare. Don't compare if you're not ready to compete. But we're probably going to try to pull this heel turn like it's a big surprise when it's not. Everybody's going to see it coming. And people are going to complain about that. I'm pretty sure about it. But it is what it is. Jay White is going to cost Edge the belt. So Moxley is going to win the title. Or maintain the belt. And then eventually we're going to be moving on to Swerve and Moxley. So then there's that. Okay. So that's AEW Revolution. Also, their Go Home show, which was absolutely dreadful, as usual. But I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.